everyone. I wanted to come on and talk about union energies, union with your twin flame, what those energies look like, and bring awareness to any energetic blocks that you may be holding that is keeping you from experiencing union with your twin flame. And taking an energetic temperature in the community, I have noticed that there's a plethora of blocks, which is to be expected. Otherwise, we'd all be in union, right? So I wanted to maybe do several videos on some of these blocks that I've noticed, and because I think just bringing your awareness to these subconscious blocks can really do a lot as far as shifting the energy. And especially, you know, maybe 10 years ago, it might have been a lot more difficult and there had to be all these healing sessions and whatnot. But I feel like the energies are really, really conducive to just, if you have the awareness, then the energy is kind of there to push it along on its own. So it's not like this big, massive ordeal that necessarily has to be gone through. It just depends. I mean, it depends on how much healing you've already done. But yeah, I wanted to bring awareness to some of these blocks because I noticed that a lot of twin flames, especially those that identify as the divine feminine, there's still a lot of this like hurt being projected onto their masculine, and blame and pointing the finger and that sort of thing, and this kind of like, I can't do it anymore. So I wanted to kind of help alleviate that and help you become an active participant in this journey. And instead of just looking at your masculine as in he's not awake and, you know, I just got to wait on him, there's so much that you can do, so much. In fact, that's all you can do, is just work on yourself. So the first thing I want to talk about is what is union energies. What is that frequency and what does that look like, and how do you know when you're in alignment with the union energies? So union energy is really one of the biggest components is unconditional love, which equals no judgment. So, you know, and I feel like we hear this term thrown around a lot in the spiritual communities, and not a lot of people talk about like what that actually looks like. You know, it's like, oh, you know, you have to have unconditional love for your twin. Well, okay, but for starters, on a mental level, that's really difficult for our mind to wrap around. In the whole idea of unconditioned, no conditions on this love. And because our mind is so conditioned, like it has conditions on everything, like that's how we have become a person that can function in this society, is based on our conditioning. And so to think of unconditional, it's very difficult for our mind to wrap our brain around what that looks like. So that's what I want to do today in this video, is kind of maybe make that seem a little bit more practical and what that looks like in your daily life. So that way, when you're not in alignment with these union energies, when you're not expressing unconditional love or embodying that, this is what it may look like, you know. So, you know, I think first of all, this unconditional love towards your twin or towards others in general, but in this context, we're talking about twins, right? So your unconditional love towards your twin, it's like anything that they're doing to you, as in, you know, they're not responding to your texts, or they're not showing up, or they're lying, or they're anything that's really going on in your connection that may be seen as unfavorable or not preferable, or even, you know, more harsh judgments. Can you remove your judgment from those actions? Can you just see it and say, oh, he didn't respond to my text, he didn't call back, that's it. There doesn't have to be this attachment to that thought of that's because he doesn't love me, that's because he's not ready, that's because this or that and this, you know, and creating this huge story that may or may not be true. It doesn't really matter. It's that energy of creating a story and thinking these thoughts and making someone wrong. This is unconditional. That there's a condition on your love for this person, is you can't love them unless they show up this way, because when you love them, you just, oh, okay, I love you. And one of the perspective shifts that you can take on when, you know, things that are happening that don't seem to be that great is, instead of, I feel like a lot of us, our immediate response is, this is happening to me, you know, he's not calling me, or he's not responding, or he's showing up in this way, or this person did that. It's like, can you instead say, this is happening for me, that happened for me, he's not calling for me. Why is he doing that? And how is that benefiting me? How is him not calling benefiting me? How is that person being rude to me benefiting me? What can I learn from that? Because that's generally the benefit. Is there something to be learned? There's some growth to be had. And it's all about, the universe is trying to bring you two into union. That's the whole point. And it's all about balance. But if you're off balance, it can't happen. And so he does something. And if you see it in the right way, and you really view it from a place of unconditional love, then you can get the lesson and you can shift that energy for you and therefore your twin. So it's really important to be able to, as much as we can, bring awareness to how we're approaching the world and how we're feeling the world and how we're letting the world affect us. And, so that's an example with your twin of, how you can look at that with unconditional love. Then there's the self, which I think is first, in my opinion, is it's easier to see outside of us. So once you understand, like, loving that person no matter what, like, you just love them. And that doesn't mean that you're accepting bad behavior or you're swimming in a toxic situation. That's not love for yourself. That's just, that's coming from other things other than love. So, you can love somebody from over there, and sometimes even more and better when you're not involved with it. So when we think about unconditional love for the self, what does that look like? So this is loving the parts of us that we're not proud of, looking on our past. When we think about our past mistakes, how are we seeing those? How do we view those? Are we judging ourselves for those? Are we feeling guilty or shame? Or do we feel, what's the word I'm looking for? Resentment towards our past? And if so, we need to clear those up, because we need to also look at our past, our present self, through the eyes of unconditional love. So there's, I love you. Like, I love you when you're sad. I love you when you're happy. I love you when you're angry, all of that. And you're really going to know, like, the shift when you are in those union energies, because it feels good. It just feels better. And there's a relief that you feel when you really step into these energies of unconditional love. So that's towards self. And then what happens is you start to see everyone around you through the eyes of love. And then it also comes into just circumstances that you experience in your life. If you lost your job, are you pissed off at your boss? Are you pissed off at yourself for, getting fired or whatever? And if you can turn that around, like I said before, and saying, this is happening for me. I lost my job for me. This is to benefit me. And it's not always easy to see what the lesson is or what the benefit is, especially, like, it doesn't necessarily have to be like right away. Obviously, we have to go through our process of getting to that as we master this unconditional love energy. But you'll know as you go along your journey, you'll know, okay, this is keeping union away from me. The more that I dwell on being a victim or judging this person or that person, or judging this part of my life, judging how much money's in your bank. That's another one. Like, can you look at your bank account through the eyes of love and love how much is there? Even if there's none there, can you love that? And it's like, I love you. I love that number. I love that number. And, it's like, as you love more and more and more the things in your life, the little things, even the seemingly, it's really the impossible things to love. Like, how can I love that? And I think people confuse unconditional love with unconditional acceptance. Like, oh, I just accept that, in a sense of giving up, kind of like, oh, I unconditionally love. If I unconditionally love my toxic partner, then that means I deal with everything, all the negative behavior, and I just live in that. And that's not what that means, because if you look at it like that, then you are sacrificing your own self, which is not unconditionally loving to you. So, and unconditionally loving to you is, I love myself no matter what. Like, no matter if you get hurt by me doing this, I still love myself, and this is important to me. So, I hope that brings some practical examples of what unconditional love looks like in the real world, and how embodying that more and more, it really shifts your perspective on how you view your life, how you view others, how you view yourself, how you view your twin. And it will shift the energy between the two of you, and you'll find a greater peace in that. And yes, there's several layers to kind of like get through because of our conditioning to actually step into unconditional love. And that's some things I want to talk about in future videos, as far as some other energies that I've noticed in the community about how the beliefs that the divine feminine is holding, that's keeping her from union energies, which is keeping her from this unconditional love. It's keeping her from experiencing him, from experiencing union with the twin flame. So stay tuned. I will, I hope this helps somebody to just kind of get a better understanding of what unconditional love actually looks like in real life. And I will be back with another video, and I really want to dive into these energies that I've noticed that are really just kind of blaringly obvious to me, as far as like what's being held in the subconscious, and it's the wrong frequency for union. So yeah, I feel like I can bring some light to that, bring some awareness to that. So stay tuned, and I will see you soon.